If you looked at a grand list of every video game system ever released, it's not much of a stretch to think that the 3DO Real Interactive Multiplayer would rank as, well, pretty inessential. Sure, it certainly had its fans. I mean, I had one friend who saved up every dollar he made for almost an entire year to afford its $699 price tag on day one. At the time, we were seriously blown away by the graphics. What set the 3DO apart from the competition was the licensing of the hardware to different manufacturers, who could then use it to build their own versions of the console. Over time, several different versions hit the market, with the most well-known revisions being the FZ-1 and the FZ-10 by Panasonic. Despite not supporting RGB video output, the 3DO hardware does include both composite and S-video natively from the console using standard connections. But unfortunately, all video output is at 480i, despite rendering the games at an internal 240p resolution. In 1993, outputting at 480i instead of the traditional video game standard of 240p may have seemed forward-thinking, and in some ways it can trick you into thinking that the games are a higher resolution than they really are. But over time, this has become a rather large thorn in the side of dedicated 3DO fans, especially when the console is hooked up to an HDTV, and the deinterlacing can look really messy. In recent years, a mod has been developed that enables a 240p video mode using a switch installed on the back of the console. However, this mod does come with one caveat. It's possible that you can activate 240p mode on the wrong field, which throws everything off. Of course, you can retoggle the switch until it lands on the correct field, but this can be a bit of a hassle. And as of this time, the mod can only be installed in certain 3DO systems, depending on what video encoder they use. It was thanks to an Atari Age forum posting by Chris Genthi, who runs the Implant Games YouTube channel, that I was enlightened about a Japanese variant of the Panasonic FZ-1 3DO that offers a very special switch on the back of the unit. This switch, labeled Mode, replaces the RF output seen on other versions of the console. He discovered that Mode A is the old 480i video output that we kinda love to hate, while switching to Mode B enables native 240p video outputs. That's right, an official 3DO console with a built-in 240p switch. Done right, and without any of the hassle that comes along with the mod. Just leave the switch in Mode B and leave it. The 3DO as it should have always been. Now, if you ask me, this is an absolute megaton bomb for the system. I can't believe that it hasn't been more widely reported. This is a real game changer here. 3D titles look so much more vivid, it's crazy. Games like Total Eclipse look worlds better without the Vaseline smoothed all over everything. 2D sprite-based games like Soccer Kid or Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo feel a bit more natural, appearing at their native resolution. And get this, due to the way that the 480i encoder processes the 240p video, removing that factor from the equation does allow for an ever so slight performance boost in most, if not all games. Due to the way that the 3DO hardware works, this increase can manifest as both an increased frame rate and higher game speed. In some cases, this might not be for the best. For instance, Out of This World ties its speed to the animation, so that the performance increase causes it to run so fast that it becomes nearly unplayable. You might want to just stick to Mode A for this one. Using a combination of the Firebrand X PlayStation 1 preset and the settings that Chris Genthi shared in his forum post, I was able to dial in a pretty decent S-video profile for the XRGB-Mini Framemeister, which specializes in upscaling 240p content. Of course, I'm not exactly a master of the art of integer scaling, so I'm sure this can be tweaked further. First, set your image mode to picture, then under color set, put your brightness to 25, gamma to 14, and black level to 2. Next, you'll want to, not the bike, come on. Chris recommended setting your saturation to 23, but I felt it looked a touch washed out there, so I set it to 27. Finally, set the sharpness to 1. Next, under visual set, change the H width to 32, V width to 29, and then turn off the auto scaler. Then manually set the H scaler to 5 and the V scaler to 7. Alright, almost there. Move to the zoom set and turn it on. Set your zoom size to 100, zoom width to 48, and zoom overscan to 90. Finally, since we're using S-video or composite here, you'll want to jump down to the video set and turn the pedestal level on, and you're done. Alright, well, I only got busted twice. Obviously, if you prefer to play on a CRT, this is all moot, because it naturally looks awesome with those sweet, sweet scan lines. It's kind of hard to believe that anyone felt that 240p forced to output as 480i was the right choice for this type of game back then. Based on the minimal amount of information out there on this particular revision, it's honestly impossible to say how many of these are actually out there, but if you know to look for the mode switch in eBay listings, you shouldn't have much of a problem. As an added bonus, Japanese 3DO consoles can play all games from all regions. At first, this might not seem all that special, because all 3DOs are natively region-free, but certain Japanese titles require a font not present on US systems, which renders them completely unplayable. I guess you could say that as of right now, this revision of the Japanese 3DO could be considered the definitive model to get. While it's unfortunate that the 3DO doesn't support RGB video, there is some work being done by certain people in that area. But let's be honest here, native 240p video is even more important than the jump from S-video to RGB, and it sure does go a long way to making the 3DO more palatable for anyone interested in playing games on the system. It sure did for me.